Well, hello, everybody. This is Seth Juarez. I am Technical Evangelist for the reporting team, and this webinar, again, is about asking us what you want to hear. So here is my standard slide. Hold on, let me click it. There we go. What questions do you have? What successes have you found using our reporting tool? What challenges have you encountered? What features would you like added? And if there are no questions, as always, I will just make stuff up. So are there any questions in there before I start making stuff up?
Nope. Go right ahead and make pretend away.
What? Pretend? See, the fabulous thing about our reporting tool is that I don't have to pretend very hard to do cool stuff. So let me load up Visual Studio, and let me make a new project. So one of the things that I'm often asked about is, hey, Seth, how do you make reports that are bound to just simple, plain old C# objects? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend a minute talking about that, how to create your objects, how to bind to them, where you get your data from, that kind of stuff, until such a time as someone has some questions. So I'm going to make a new project and call it Object Reports. And I'm going to hit Enter. There is going to be the lovely thing you're used to seeing, the form. I am going to use my OCD powers right now to change Form 1 over to something useful like main, which is even more useful, all right? Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create some data. So I'm going to say new folder, and I'm going to call it data. And in there, I am going to add some objects. So let me make a student object. So student. Okay, so there is a student object. Let me go ahead and make it public. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cheat, and I'm going to go over here and take some student objects that were already made. So that way you guys don't have to sit and watch me write really boring code. So let me go to this thing. In here I have this data that has some students in it. So let me go and open it up in my handy Edit Plus, and let me make, oh, looks like we have an enum, so I'm going to put the enum in there because students have grades, and then I'm going to go over here and get the student. So I'm going to pull this down like so, and then I'm going to move the actual definition of the class over here like this. Okay, so these little attributes you'll have to ignore. This is for something else. And so we have this student object. We don't need this function. We have this student object that has a name, grade, GPA, age to all friends, and whether they're good students or not. Okay, so this is something we're all used to seeing. We all have objects that are like this. And so there you go. The next thing we need to do is we need to have a way to get some students. So I'm gonna just fake out a bunch of students. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to create a static method. So I'm going to say method, and it's going to be get data. But in it, we're going to return an IEnumerable of student. IEnumerable of student. And the reason why we want to do an IEnumerable of student is because once you have an IEnumerable of student, you can do some cool link stuff that we'll work on doing. Oops, I just changed the visibility of the wrong thing. No, that's right. So I'm going to say public. And I'm going to say return new student and put a little end break there, and I am going to bring over a bunch of students that I've just totally just typed in. So student data, and I'm just going to take these. Don't tell anyone, but this is the way I get data when it's fake. Boom. There you go. All right, so now we have this method. Let me put these in the right order here. Okay, now we have students. Let's make sure it compiles. Looks like it did. We can see down here that it compiled. So there we have a bunch of students. Then we have a list of them, and so remember, this is just an object. There's nothing from the database. It's just a plain object. Okay, so I'm going to pause right here, right before we get to reports, just to make sure that there's no questions, because remember, I'll just blather about stuff.
No doubt. We do have a question from Carl.
Oh, okay, let's hear it.
Uh, Hello, Seth. When there's an
Hi.
update, as there was this past week, after the update is installed, is there anything we need to do beyond that to make sure all reports still work, since the reports were created with 10.2.6 and now we have 10.2.7?
You know, that is a fantabulous question. I just made that word up. So what you do is you go to all programs, right? And what you want to do is, oh, by the way, look at the secret 2011 volume 1. Isn't that exciting? By the way, I'm going to talk about that more probably next month about some of the cool features that are coming in 11.1. So do come to the Ask DevExpress during that one. So what you need to do is you need to go to the new volume that you have, go to Components, and go to Tools, and in there is going to be this nifty thing called a project converter, right? The project converter, what it does is it goes through your project. Let me click it so you can see it, what it does. So volume 2, components, not demos, tools. When you go to the project converter, all it is it's an application that we've created that enables you to upgrade. Did I click it? There it is. That enables you to update. Looks like I haven't even put in the 10.7, right? So, you know, I could probably install it right now and show you that. But what you do is you pick the project that you've set up. So I put all my projects under C projects. Well, let me go down to projects. There it is. You pick the project that you want to upgrade. So let's say it's, for example, Sparklines is a project that you've done. You just put it in there, and then you hit upgrade, right? And what will happen is it will go ahead and upgrade all of your stuff. Notice that it processed these things, but because I did not have anything to upgrade, it just said, you know what, I can skip it. And it takes your proj files and fixes them so that it's pointing to the right stuff. And that's really all you should have to do. If there's ever a breaking change, though, make sure you look at the breaking changes to find if this project upgrade does not work using that tool, then you can go ahead and see what the breaking changes were. And again, if none of that helps, you can always email support or go to support.devexpress.com to get our world-class support to assist, or even myself. I do not profess to be as smart as they are. Absolutely not even true. So I am not as smart as they are. They will always be able to answer faster, better, and stronger. So let them know if you have any challenges. Hopefully that answered the question. Any other questions, Amanda?
No questions so far, and Carl says thanks.
Oh, cool. Thanks, Carl. Well, I'm going to go ahead and keep blathering about object data. Okay, so notice that all we have in here is a bunch of just objects. So to show you how we can indeed get that out, I'm going to go to the main window, and I am going to put a little grid in there because, you know, our grids are fantastic. But before that, I'm going to let my OCD again take control, and I am going to type in something for the form. Object reports. All right. So let's go to the toolbox. Let's go over to oh, look at that. Look at all that 11.1 stuff. Hopefully, there's my 10.2 stuff. Got scared there for a second. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the data and grab a grid control. Right, and I'm going to move this over like so. Put it right there, and then I am going to get this over here. Let me kill the commands part, and then I am going to go and make sure that the anchor is set so that it expands really nicely. So the way to do that is you go to anchor, top left, bottom right, and watch what I'm going to do. This is the interesting thing with the grid control, because I'm just going to show you how to bring up students, just to show you that the data is actually in there. So there's a grid control, there's a grid view, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the data source of this like so. So let me go to the add project data source, and I'm going to pick an object. Now, you're noticing that with just a grid, it's the same as reports, right? Because to me, a grid is just a live report that you can interact with, so that's a good idea. So let me hit object, hit next. Notice that it's going to ask me, well, Seth, which object would you like? Well, I would like this one, and I'm going to hit finish. And there it is. Notice that it has that there. So what we're going to do is when this loads up, let me go to the code. Hold on one second. Let me go to the code here. And when it loads up, I'm going to say grid student.data source equals student student dot, there's a problem. Looks like I didn't, let's see what the visibility of this method is here. Looks like it's public, but I didn't compile it. So let me go over here and let me do this and let me F6. There it is. And I should have it get data, but I'm not seeing it. Let me go to student.cs. Public, I know why. It needs to be static. So F6, yes, I know. Let's go over to that. F6. Okay, and let me say student dot get data, and let's run this puppy and see what happens. Okay, so notice that we have data, right? And this is all I've really done is I've just bound everything over to this. Just to show you that even our grid works. And this was another reason I want to show you this is that there was indeed actually data coming out. Okay, so we're not interested in the grid. We're interested in reports. So let's go ahead and get a little button on there. We're going to use common controls, and we're going to put a simple button here, and this is going to load the report. So let's put it right here, and let's say load report. And then the button is going to be button load report. All right, so in here we're going to have a method that loads a report. Okay. All right, Amanda, any questions before I keep going? I guess not.
No questions so far.
Let's make
no questions.
Let's go new item, and let's go to extra report class, and we're going to make a student report. All right, so it's loading all of its goodness over here. The report designer will come up in a second, and you're going to see, again, remember how we did it with the grid? There was just this data source thing we set up. We're going to do the same thing, but with the report. So let's go over here, and let's go to data source. And notice that it's already there. And you're saying, well, Seth, how did that happen? Well, it turns out that these data source files that you set up create this interesting little property, right? And it's this data source thing. So notice that what it is that this is generated by Visual Studio. And what it says is we have a data source, right, of type student. Now, I wonder why this is not, see that? My screen is off, so let me go real quick and go to Tools, and let me go to Import and Export Settings. So we're going to import some settings. I'm going to save these, and what we're going to do is we're going to bring in the C# ones and hit Finish. There we go. Now you can see what's going on. Oh, I never like it when these things are too small. So let me go to Tools, Options, and let me make the font just a little bit bigger. Let's go to 14 and hit OK. Okay, so notice that what happens is when you actually create these things, right, it puts some data sources in here so that you can see what it is that it's reporting off of. So that's why when I go to the when I went to the actual report and I said, hey, what data source would you like me to go to? It already knows about that one, right? So let me just hit it. Notice there's no need for a data member. I can go over here and place the field source up here, field list up there, and you can start to make some reports. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put the name up here. And let's make this a little bit bigger. Then we're gonna put whether they're good or not, right? There's a little checkbox that it has. We're gonna put the GPA right here, and then we're gonna put their grade right here. So now notice what we've done. We've actually bound to an object, right? And what the reporting system is going to assume is that this object is going to be this list of things, right? And it's going to have a list of students. All right, so let me go ahead and hit save. Now, here is the one challenge with doing it this way. You're noticing that there in the preview, there's nothing in there, right? And that's because there's no data to pull from. When you're doing stuff with data sets, The data sets inherently have built in these things called table adapters, which know how to get data out. Later, if you like, I'd love to show you how to actually pull data out during the preview. All right, so let's go and to the main. Let's go to student report. Student report equals new student report. There you go. We're going to say report.data source equals student dot get data. We're going to say report.create document, and we'll say true. And then we're going to say report.show dialog, show preview dialog. All right, there it is. A couple lines of code. Let's run it and see what happens. There it is. So now what we've done is we've spent a little bit of time fiddling with real POCO objects and binding them to reports, okay? So let's hit close, and let's pause for a second to see if there are any questions. Amanda?
Yes. Can you change the connection string for all your reports programmatically? For example, changing from development environment to production.
Sure. There are a couple of ways to do that. One of the things that I suggest doing is having something called, let me hit stop here. Okay, so you can range from like really simple to real complex. I'm going to start from real simple. The real simple way is to put those kinds of connection strings into your configuration file, right? So they don't have one right here, but I'm going to go ahead and add a new item, and it's going to be the configuration file. So let me see if I can find it. There it is. So your app config file has things called, for example, connection strings, right? You can put them in there, and you can add them, right, in there. Now the thing about it is, if you have a really special build environment that produces artifacts for each general area, you can have a different connection string or different config files for each of your environments. Okay, so I would put it in here, right? And when you actually deploy to a certain environment, change your connection string in your app config, and all of a sudden everything else will automatically work. So depending on how you're doing your data, so that's a real simple way. A complicated way, and I think this is what you're asking, is if you've burned your connection string into, for example, your data set, you're going to need to programmatically go in there, and before anything happens, you need to go in there and change the connection string, right? That's a little bit harder, but let's see if I can't get a little bit of something going here for that. So let me add an existing item. And in the demos, we have data, right? And I'm going to use the Northwind data set. Now, I don't suggest you use Access and real apps, just my feeling about it, right? So I'm going to say Northwind, Northwind. And I'm just going to pull all the tables and hit finish. Notice that when you're doing your application, it automatically adds this information to the app config file, right? If you're doing it this way, all you need to do is change this connection string. And that's what I would do. Now, the other thing that is a little bit more difficult, but you can do, is you can say something like, let's see if I can find it. So Northwind dot, I gotta find where the connection is. So let's do this. Let's do object reports dot data dot Northwind table adapters dot. So in here, your table adapters have this thing called, well, let me make a new one. Oh, I hit insert. So var x equals new this. Right, notice that x now is going to have a connection. Right, that you can set right there. So you can say connection string equals blah. Do you see that? And so that's how you can do that. I wouldn't suggest doing that. I would probably put it in the configuration file, but otherwise I would use this. All right. Any other questions, Amanda?
Yeah. Will we be able to access the samples you're creating right now?
Sure. Yeah, I'll email it to you if you want, or put it up. So the sample I'm creating really, yeah, I guess you're right, because the stuff I typed up is pretty boring code. The interesting thing, though, is how the report actually works using objects. So yeah, I'll make sure to get that out somehow. I'll send it over to the support guys so they can do their magic. All right, so we have this report that is directly bound to objects, and let's go ahead and run it again just to make sure that it looks good. And indeed it works. Now let's change some things. Okay. By the way, are there any questions before I go on? I don't see any.
Nope, that was it.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, you got to them.
Okay, cool. So let me go ahead and actually style the report. Okay, because a lot of people. Okay, so I'm not very artistic, actually at all. So when I say style report, I'm saying make it look a little bit better than it could, right? So let's go ahead and try to style the report. So the one thing that I do, and I always do this, is when I want something to be applied globally, I gotta look at the properties. So let me go to the properties. When I want something to be applied globally, let me kill this. I always set the style on the report itself. Okay, so let's do that. Let's go to the report and let's set the font to something other than Times New Roman. So I hit the ellipsis, and I'm going to set it to Verdana for 12. Let's do 14. So there you go. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. Okay. And let's hit play. Because remember, you cannot preview unless we do some things beforehand to make it work. So there it is. Notice that it's a little bit better. We've set this up. Okay. The next thing we want to do is, say we don't want this checkbox, right? Let's take that out. Okay. Let's go to the toolbox and let's go to the report controls and let's put in an XR label. Let's say we want to have it be, say, yes or no. Okay, so let's clear this out. I'm going to say yes or no. Let's change the label name to label good. Now, there's a couple of things that can be done, right? The first thing is you can straight data bind it to good, right? And what does that do? Notice that it will say true or false, right? But we wanted to say yes or no, right? So let's take a little detour through what's going on in the before print event. Now this is like the absolute, you can do anything in the before print event. Let me fix this here. We don't need all of this here. Let me take this out so you can see what's going on. Okay, so I'm going to set a breakpoint right here, and let's see if we can't change the text of this particular thing before it's printed. So we run it, hit load report. Okay, so here we are with this thing called the sender, and the sender is going to be, as you guessed it, the same label, right, that we had before. Namely, where's the name of it? Move it down. I think I called it label text or label something. Well, my mouse is slow. Label good. See that? That's the name of it. And this what I'm doing is a really good way of actually discovering things when you're doing reports, right? Because if you want to control something, you want to control it. So notice that the label good is going to be the sender. So we're going to say var label equals object. Oh, sorry, yes, sender as XR label, right? And the best thing is to be safe. So sender is XR label, then let's do the right thing. Now you're probably wondering, well, Seth, this event is fired on label good. Yeah, but the key is, well, what if we want to extend this to all labels that you want to say yes or no or whatever you want? Okay, now that we've done that, let's go F10. And let's look at this label. And let's see what's it's bound to or how the binding is working, right? So notice that in the lines we have this thing false, right? So we're going to do it the cheap way. We're going to use the text object. We're going to use the text. Let me say label.text. Notice it's false. We're going to use the text string to tell us whether or not we should change it. And you're going to see something interesting that's going to happen that you're going to think is not what should be going on. So let me just F5 it real quick so we can get a look at what the report is saying. Notice false, true, false, true, false, right? Because they're alternating. Okay, so let's do it again. Let's set a breakpoint right here, and let's run it again. So load report. Okay. Now what I'm going to say is if label.text equals false, label.text equals no, right? Else label.text equals yes. Now, just a little reminder, remember that it was true, false, true, false, true, false, okay? So let's hit F5 and let's see what happens. See that? Pretty spiffy, I think. Now, what if you want to be more granular and you want to say, hey, look, if their GPA, if they have an A and their GPA is D, or you want to access other information, notice that in the before print event, you have access to all sorts of things, right? Let's do something even more interesting. What if we want to access the current row, right? And that's something that's important, right? Because we can't put anything in that label unless we access the current row. So let's access the current row. Let's hit load report. And let me show you an interesting method called get current row, right? Data equals get current row. Let's see what happens. All right, so let's look at it. Notice what is inside of the data. So let's do a quick watch here. And notice that indeed, what's in the current data? Well, we have the current student record, right? And notice that you're going to get this every time, right? So let me put this here. Let's go to the notice that let me do it to string on this so that you can see it inside of the actual report. So let me go to the solution, and in the toString, we're going to override the toString method. Override toString, right? And it's going to complain if we don't override the hash code too. So get hash code, and we're going to return the base hash code. Here, we're going to return this. Return string.format. We're going to do the name, and we're going to do, let's do their grade, for example. And so we're going to say name and grade. There you go. Okay. Oh, and let's do good or not. So their name, and we're going to do their grade, and we're going to do their good or not. So we're going to say 2, and this is going to be good. Okay. Actually, let's do this. Good is yes. Bad is no. Okay. There you go. So let's run it. And now we should be getting some IntelliSense support. Not IntelliSense, but some support when we look at the data. See that? So what I just did, here, oops. Let me go back here. Oh, it keeps disappearing. But notice that what I did is when I do that toString method, that's what it actually shows as a preview when we're doing that. So Aiden is not a good student, right? So there's that. So now you have this thing, right? But it thinks that it's an object, right? So we have to unbox it, right? So let's do that. So let's hit stop. No, actually we can, well, let me hit stop. So we're going to say this. Student S, not student report, student S equals student data. Right? And you're thinking, well, Seth, why don't you just do this? And you're probably right that I should. So we've unboxed it. Notice the type here on the var now is object student, and now you can do all sorts of things with this particular student. Let me hit run. Let me hit load report. All right, so notice that now this particular object, if I were to do anything with it, data dot, we have everything that we want for the current object. Now, you're probably wondering, well, what if the current row is a data table? Well, then you'll get a data row. What if the current row is an entity framework list or enumerable? Then you're going to get the object for the entity framework entity that you have. Well, what if it's in Hibernate? Then you're going to get the object. What if it's LLBLGen Pro? Well, then you're going to get the object, right? Notice that the get current row actually returns the data that you're currently looking at, right? And that's an interesting thing, right? Because what if you wanted to create your own special custom aggregate method? Well, what you could do is you could have a running total. You could have a special running total. You can do whatever you want in the before print event. Even in the report before print event, you can get the current row, and you have access to everything that you need. Okay, so hopefully that was helpful. We spent about a half hour looking at objects and how to actually play with them. So let me hit F5, and it's gonna do this for every single one. See that? All right, so let's hit stop. Well, no, let's hit F5 so we can see the report, and there it is. All right, Amanda. So I'm going to pause right here for questions. Any questions?
You don't have any. There are no questions thus far.
This must be very riveting or something. Yeah, because did you fall asleep? Because I didn't hear you for a little bit.
Oh, I mute myself, so I'm not.
Right, sure. Yeah, that's
interfering with the presentation.
No, I mean, sure. Thanks for watching. Right. Well, I don't have anything else. I just wanted to show you how to play with objects. If there are no further questions, I could go in and start talking about how to style things. Amanda, do you have any questions about reports?
No.
Right.
I've spent a lot of time with you. I feel like I've gotten a pretty thorough.
Oh, okay. Thank you. That's great. Next webinar will be done by Amanda herself. I'm really excited to.
My take on reporting.
I love reports. All right. Nobody. For some reason, it's not. Reporting is not like the most exciting part, but it's probably the most important part of any software. So I just want people to understand that I know it might not be exciting, but it's definitely very important. All right, let's do some styling, and then maybe we'll throw in a chart. All right, so let's go here, and let's talk about styling things the way we would like them to. So let me hit that over, and let me drag this whole thing like so. And notice that I was able to bring in a table of stuffs. Well, I mean, of the stuff we wanted to, right? So let's go there. And let's run it, and let's look at this table. There it is. All right. Notice that we're going to need to set some more room. We're going to need to move some stuff around, but we can do that. Let's talk about the band. So let me insert a header. Now, we can either do a report header or a group header, because notice that we're in the same group, but I'm going to put it in the report header, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cheat and take this over and put it up over here. And you're probably thinking, well, Seth, that's not right. Well, yeah, you're probably right. Oops, I moved it too far down. Let's move it right here. And let's reorder some things, okay? So the best way to reorder things is like so. I am going to, where's the name? There it is. Put that there. Notice we just killed age, but that's okay. We're going to put the grade over here, right? We're going to put whether, tall and goodness really doesn't matter, so I'm going to put good over here, tall over here. That's already there. Looks like we need friends, so we're going to put friends here, right? GPA is, I think grade then GPA, right? So grade and then friends over here. Now, why did I do both? Well, remember I wanted to know where everything was, and so now I have this set up properly, right? Because I didn't want to forget which ones I had, and so that's why I did that way. So let's make the name a little bit bigger. Let's make GPA the middle of these two, and grade, friends, grade, good, and tall. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to remove the bindings from all of these, right? So I'm going to, again, copy this a second time. This was just as a dummy to remember what objects I had. Now I can move this down. And, oops, I did it again. We're going to move this down. And we're going to put some text in here instead of the binding. So the binding we're going to take off, right? And the text is going to be name. Then we're going to go to the next one. The binding we're going to take off. And this is going to be called grade. Very good. The binding we're going to take off. Very tedious, I know, GPA. This we're going to take, the binding we're going to take off of this one as well. Now we could go into the code behind and change this, but I mean, I'm afraid to break stuff. I don't, auto-generated code sometimes is not your friend. So we're going to change this to grade. Oh, I already have grade, so it looks like I'm missing something. So we have age. Oh, age is missing. So we'll put that in there, and we'll say age. This will say good, and this will say tall. But again, we got to take the binding off. So let's take the binding off. None. Let's take the binding off of here. None. Okay. So let's run it and see what happens. There you go. So we have everything in there that we want. It'd be nice if we had a header for each page. So let's add instead a group header, and let's move this down there. And let's see about this. There's some properties probably that we can look at, and we want to repeat per page. Let's make sure that we can do that. Notice that there is a repeat every page. So we'll hit true, run. Hit load report. And notice that every page now has this header that we want, right? So let's close this. Let's move this down so that everything fits nicely. Oops, that's not how I wanted to do it. Moving up, moving up. All right, so now let's talk about styles, okay, and how you set those up. Before I proceed with styles, any questions, Amanda?
Yes, there is a question. If you are typing in the labels, is there a way to jump from one field to the next rather than having to use the mouse? In other words, I type name, hit some key, and jump to grade. Tab and enter don't do it.
Well, holy cow. Carl just auto-discovered a feature that I never knew about. Look what happens when I hit the tab key. So notice that it's going through each of the objects. Let me show you where it's going through. So let me go to. We want to see the. Where is that button? Oh, there's something called a layout, the object layout, but I'm not finding it. Don't you hate when that happens? So there's the toolbox task list. Call hierarchy. No, that's not what we want. Other windows. Not the property manager. We want the. No, not the layer explorer. There is this thing that I'm not finding. It shows you the tree of objects. For this, the root object is the report, right? And then inside of it, you have the margin, the header, the group header. Then you have the table. Notice how it selects it. Then the next then the fields inside of it, and so on and so forth. So here's a question: if you type name then tag, will it go to the next field? So let's go here. Let's type name, and let's go tab. Nope, it doesn't. You have to somehow, if you hit escape, then tab, then it will work. All right, so let's do grade here. Escape. Escape. Well, let me type something else like foo. So we're going to type foo. Escape, no, see, escape kills it. So, because what I've tried to do is I've tried to make it so that you can do that, but looks like you can't. So when you hit enter, notice it puts in an enter, and that's not what we want. What happens? We'll space tab. Yeah. So notice it does not do that just yet. I'm sure that's actually an interesting feature. Maybe we should add that. Carl, send me an email, and we'll try to put that in, because that's actually a good idea to go a little faster. At least for these demos, I don't have to bore everyone to death. You know what I'm saying, Amanda? Could someone please wake up Amanda?
Oh, I'm here.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, so if we had the tabs, then she would not be asleep faster. You know what I'm saying? All right. Finally, let's get to these style sheets. Okay, so let's add one for the header. Oops. And let's make sure that everything with the header, we want to do the text alignment to bottom, middle. And let's put a border on the bottom. And let's set the border width to 1. And looks like we're going to do a solid line. And we're going to do black. Okay. Close. So this is how you set the actual styles on it. So you can either set it on the table row, or you can set it on the actual cell. I'm going to set it on the table row for this one. And the way you do it is you go to Styles, you hit it, or, sorry, you tell it what style you want. Very good. Now, let's go down to this guy. We want to do an alternating style. So let's go to Style Sheet. Let's add an even row style. Even row. And what we're going to do is we're going to change the back color to something really light. I don't know what to change it to. That's too ugly. Let's see if we can do something smarter than that. There we go. We'll set it to that. And what we're going to do now is we go to this guy and we say, hey, row, your style is going to be, your even style is going to be even row. So now when we hit run and load report, we have this good stuff going. And it's a little bit easier to read, or so we would think, right? Now you're thinking, well, the header doesn't look good. Now notice, because you've done the style in the style sheet, you can change the header here. Let's set the back color to something darker, and let's set the fore color to something lighter, like white. Let's make sure that the font is really good. So we're gonna go to Verdana. We're gonna leave it at 14, and we're gonna go bold on it. Okay. So it looks like everything. Oops, that one doesn't fit. So we're going to move the name over. Sorry. And we're going to move this over as well. There you go. All right, let's run it. And hit load report. And there is a fabulous report. Now, question. Oh, I'm sorry. Any questions, Amanda?
There are no questions.
What? Wonderful. All right. So I don't have anything else to show you unless you have any questions. What we've done is, during my blatherskite time, I've showed you how to bind reports to regular objects, how to actually, in the before print event, access the current data item you're working on. We spent some time on that. I showed you how to walk through the code and actually work on it. And the last thing I showed you is how to use styles on the reports. If there aren't any other questions, I'm going to go ahead and say call it good for now. And Amanda, I turn it back to you.
Cliff asks you if you're going to show how to use the preview with object.
Probably not right now. And the reason why is because I'm going to fumble around until I find it, and I'd rather find it and then show you. So who is the one that asked that, by the way?
Cliff Still.
Cliff, send me an email. I'll look it up for you. Yeah, I don't want to fumble around until I find it, because that's embarrassing. I mean, it's already embarrassing enough, just to make stuff as I go. So let me just tell everyone, this webinar, the stuff I'm showing it to you ad hoc, meaning that I think of something that someone's asked, and then I make it up as I go, right? Because the reason why I can do that is because the reporting system is so flexible and powerful that you really can do live demos just like this. And so the stuff I'm showing you, I was all made up as I went. Okay, so it wasn't pre-scripted. But the thing about the preview window that he's wanting me to show is a little bit of a more difficult thing, only because I don't know how to do it quite yet. But as soon as I find out, obviously it's going to be easy. Isn't that the way it is with developers? It's always hard until we figure it out. And so I'll figure it out for you and then let you know. But send me an email. Yes.
Carl says he saw the Amanda and Seth show videos from Mix 11. Good job.
Yeah, we actually danced on the mix stage right up until the security person came, right? Was that?
And yanked us off with a hook.
Yeah, it was a cane, and they got me around the neck and just pulled it. It was very painful. It made it hard to do my Elvis skit that night.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah, okay.
That's hilarious.
Well, there you go, Amanda.
Awesome. Thanks, Seth. So Seth's next webinar is May 11th. It's reporting with Silverlight and MVVM. He'll demonstrate using our reporting tools within Silverlight while adhering to the industry standard model view model pattern. So that's Seth's next webinar, May 11th. And then the next Ask DevExpress reporting webinar is, I think, May 25th. And you're going to be showing stuff coming up in 11.1, right?
That's what I'm going to try to do. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
All right. Awesome.
Look, everyone, I'm zipping this up so that I can send it off for whomever wants it. So it's ready to be zipped up. Not only that, it's on my desktop to remind me. There you go. Life is good.
Very good. All right, so our next webinar this week is Wednesday, April 27th at 10 a.m., and DevExpress welcomes Miguel Castro, and he's presenting Implementing the MVVM Pattern. Hit the ground running with yet another architectural design pattern, MVVM. In this webinar, you'll learn why using this pattern when programming WPF and Silverlight applications is more than just an alternative, it's almost a requirement. The benefits of testability, reusability, and separation of concerns will become obvious to you almost immediately. So tune in and find out what MVVM is and how to properly implement this pattern properly and efficiently. So that's this Wednesday at 10 a.m. And then our final webinar this week is Thursday, Accelerating Layout Development in Silverlight with Silverlight evangelist Emil Misrobian. This session will take a look at the strengths and weaknesses of the existing layout tools that ship with the Silverlight platform. We'll then look at the DevExpress layout control for Silverlight and the advantages it provides to the developer and end user. All right, so again, if you missed anything from this webinar, you'd like to download it for later viewing, visit us at the DevExpress channel at tv.devexpress.com. Again, thank you to Seth and the dev team. Thank you all for joining us, and thanks for choosing DevExpress.